episode of the TFD Performance Podcast for 2023. I am joined by senior performance dietitian, Combat Jack, also known as Jack Doherty. Thanks for coming back on.
Thank you for having me.
So tell the people where you are and what you're doing at the moment, Combat Jack.
I'm currently in Rawai in Phuket, in Thailand. I'm here with Joseph Luciano, just helping him get ready for his title fight in March. Also visiting the guys in Bangtao as well, just to catch up with some of our friends and look at doing some collaboration stuff. So just a bit of business, a bit of helping with Joe's fight camp, and also just doing some training myself.
Yeah, it's a really popular time of year to be heading over to Thailand. Lots of fighters going over there at the moment. I think you would know better than anyone. Once you go over there, right, it can be a bit of a shock to the system. And that's what we want to talk about today, because obviously we work with loads of fighters, not only just based in Thailand, but that go over there for training holidays. And we always encounter the same issues when it comes to their nutrition. So to save you guys the drama, if you're planning to go over to Thailand to train, listen to this episode. Combat Jack's going to break down the most common issues that he sees over there and that he has seen himself, and then what we do with our athletes to help them get over it. So let's start. Very first issue, and I think anyone that's been to any part of Southeast Asia will understand what this is straight away. Issue number one, hydration. Break that down for us, Combat Jack.
I think hydration, obviously we talk about this a lot in general, but I think in Thailand or in Southeast Asia, it's one of the most vital aspects, because like if you're not kind of used to the heat, it's a different type of heat as well to Australia. As soon as you leave your hotel room, because everything's air conditioned, right? So as soon as you're leaving there, you just start sweating because it's so hot, so humid, so hot, so you're sweating. But then when you start to train, I've never sweated so much in my life. I actually met with Joseph the other day. Joe was lost 3.5 kilos in the session. So the most important thing I think we talk about was like during training, prior to training, during training, after, is hydration, but not just the hydration in terms of the water intake, but the electrolytes. If you see like some of the guys' gloves, it's just completely white sweat. Obviously, their sodium that they're excreting during these sessions is incredibly high as well.
And if these guys are coming over and they're thinking, okay, well, should I bring my electrolytes with me or should I top up there? What's the best way to go about it?
So you can go to 7-Eleven or the chemist, and they do have electrolyte little sachets. Obviously it's harder to read because it's all in Thai, but they do have electrolyte little sachets that we all use. Again, 7-Eleven or the chemist. The chemist has a more wide variety. They usually just call it some of them call it hangover cures and stuff like that, but it's usually just they use ask for electrolytes. They don't know what that is, but I would advise bringing your own as well, just so you can kind of read the labels and know what's in it. Again, sometimes the dosages may be different in Thailand because their rules about dosages and stuff is not as controlled as in Australia. Obviously, there's a lot of Gatorade choices, but I don't think Gatorade's electrolyte kind of profile is nowhere near close enough to get back in what you need. So I would bring something from home, but also there's an abundance of choices here because obviously everyone knows how important it is.
Let's talk about the profile then, because obviously when you go to a lot of these places, you'll see people drinking, say, coconut water or things like that in order to hydrate. Talk to us about what actually is the most important thing, especially when you're training and you're losing all of that sweat.
Yeah, so obviously we got to think about the sodium content of obviously the electrolyte supplement you're taking. But the thing about that also in Thailand is that what you'll realize very quickly is that any sauces they have on their food is bucket loads of sodium. So if you're eating a traditional Thai diet of the chicken and rice or the meat and rice, stuff like that, there's a high level of sodium in that as well. We've found here, when me and Joe first got here, we're discussing that over lunch about what he needs. He's a very high sodium excreter, and he obviously has a very high sodium intake at home as well. So we kind of just see how he goes in terms of training and stuff like that. But I think what we really try to monitor is mainly just his sodium, what he's intaking through the electrolyte supplements we brought from home, which is from training. And then we kind of just monitor it, how he's training performance, how he's feeling throughout the day. But again, the most important part of it is sodium, especially in Thailand.
Yeah, would you recommend guys do any heat acclimation before coming over? Like obviously, like you said, it's way hotter and way more humid than what we know here back home.
This time I found it, I definitely would. I think back home I was training in a gym, which was a warehouse. So especially in summer, I was kind of a little bit acclimated. Not nearly as acclimated as I like to be. It's incredibly hard and incredibly difficult to kind of get adjusted in the first couple of weeks. But definitely, if you can do some sort of acclimation, I definitely would advise it because you just got to understand that the training here is incredibly intense. And also the heat, it can be just as intense as well at the same time. So if you can, definitely do so.
Let's skip over to the next point then that comes off the back of the intensity of the training. Everyone knows when you're doing that really intense training, the last thing you want to do when you finish it, when you can barely catch your breath and someone's been kneeing you in the guts and punching you in the face for 2, if not 3 hours, because these sessions are really long, right? Is that decreased appetite. And that comes from a factor of two things. It comes from a factor that the training is incredibly hard and being in the heat is an actual appetite suppressant. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, obviously come to Thailand for kind of to get into the best shape possible, especially during fight camp. Obviously, because of you can live the lifestyle. A lot of people aren't working over here or they're working online. I find that a lot of people, the training starts usually generally at a lot of Muay Thai gyms. I would say specifically around 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. So most of the time, people will sleep into about 7. You get up, you have a coffee. You may, depending on your gym, go for a run beforehand, and then you start training. So you don't really get to fuel yourself pre-training most of the time. That's what most people don't do. And then basically by the time you finish training, you really want to go home straight away and make sure that you're dead-oling and making sure the staff is on the thing because there's a lot of staff in the gyms here. But by the time you're eating, it's about 11 a.m. And then most people have a nap. So the thing is that the people's intake dramatically decreases. And then a lot of people think that's a good thing. I'm leading up very quickly, but their training performance is just slowly getting worse and worse, and the output is getting decreased and decreased. So I think that's a big aspect of that is kind of making sure that you're structuring your intake, making sure that you're getting enough fuel into your training sessions because you're just not going to get the most out of your trip. By the end of it, you'll be completely burnt out. You're not recovering. You're not giving the muscles needs for recover or to gain and stuff like that. So I think in Thailand, it's very important to structure your meals. I think it's also very important to, I know people are scared of carbohydrates and stuff like that and sugars, especially I haven't seen someone drink a full sugar Gatorade for a long time, but implementing things like this, like, easy, like a lot of fruit shakes we have over here to make sure if we're not hungry, we're getting that carbohydrate kind of throughout the day. Fruit shakes, fresh fruits always in the cart downstairs. And also we do implement stuff like full sugar Gatorades to make sure that we're constantly supplying our system, replenishing the glycogen and making sure we're fueling sessions. And then even what we'll talk about as well is the intra-workout carbohydrates. So most of the sessions, as we said, go for about 2 hours. So after a certain point, depending how hard the session is or depending how long it is, because some of them can be 2.5 to 3 hours, implementing carbohydrates during the workout to make sure that we're going to get the most out of it as well.
And just touching on that point there where you're talking about staff, that's obviously a big problem. And you see that a lot in any environment where it's really hot, humid. It's just the perfect breeding ground for it. Obviously, there are situations that you can't avoid if you've got open wounds and you're rolling around and other people sweat and whatever, that's going to decrease it. But a big factor that a lot of people don't realize is that when you're under eating and you're not, you're burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. You're overtraining and then you're under recovering and you're not putting in the right amount of calories and you're actually decreasing your immune system and you're decreasing your body's ability in order to fight that staph. And that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed when you have people who train over here a lot, when they start eating properly and they start fueling properly, given that they're doing all of the hygiene and everything else that you're talking about, Jack, they end up having staph a whole lot less.
Yeah, and on top of that as well is talking about monitoring your training load because obviously the Thais do it a certain way. So the Thais traditionally train twice a day. Obviously you do pads a lot and stuff like that, but a lot of people come here from training at home a certain style and come here and they're not monitoring their load. They're doing 2 a days, 6 days per week, maybe coming off 1 a day. So it's very important to monitor your load, how you're feeling, make sure your sleep is on point, make sure you take a session off when you need to. Obviously, some of the Thai trainers will give you a bit of shit if you don't come to training all the time. But I think that's one thing that I see here a lot is people not monitoring their load, or kind of, having a concept of like, I'll get here the first week, maybe I'll do 1 a day or 2 a days here and there, kind of getting the body acclimated to the training specifically, and then kind of ramping it up. That's what I see a lot of people do there. People's hips are frozen, their back's sore, there's a lot of different things.
Let's talk about the food options once you get there, right? So we appreciate that, yes, you do need to stay on top of your food. There's a lot of things that'll inhibit your ability, and physiologically you may not be feeling it. Let's say you get to a point, you go, yes, I know I need to stay on top of it. What's it actually like when you get there? What are the food options that you have available?
So the food options are quite good now in comparison to 10 years ago when I came here. So there's a lot of meal prep companies now. It's very popular to it's like a Western style meal prep. So most of them are owned by English guys from the UK. There's a girl from our gym who's Thai who makes it, and specifically macros. It's like their menu's completely broken down, macronutrients. You can get custom meals. That's one side of things. That will be about, I think, generally about 250 baht, which is about, what's my maths, about 11, 12, $13, depending on the exchange rate, if you want to eat those kind of meals. But if you kind of follow like a traditional Thai diet and you go to like the local restaurants, which are quite, they don't look too fancy, but the food's fantastic, you're looking at a good meal from anywhere between, $3 to $5, depending on how large the meal. So the access to food is fantastic. I think sometimes the Thai dishes may lack a bit of protein. So it's generally when we go out to eat, we will order like multiple protein dishes, because obviously the abundance of rice and vegetables, the protein serving will be quite low. So we just make sure that we're kind of ordering more meat in terms of if you're doing the traditional Thai style thing. But if you eat from these prep companies, you can really have a fantastic diet here. I think that, for myself, when I come here, my gut health and everything is fantastic. Like, not to give too much information, but my poos are fantastic, which is usually a good indication of my digestive health. But and I think there's a lot of fresh options. There's a lot of like food vendors with fresh fruit and smoothies. I would advise something is to bring supplements from home. It's like protein powders, creatine, stuff like that, because it is quite expensive here for some reason. You can get like protein shakes, but to buy like protein and creatine and vitamins and minerals can be a bit more expensive than back home. So if you're going to be here for a while, definitely chuck that in your luggage before you come.
So financially speaking, we're saying if you want to eat from traditional Thai places, anywhere $3 to $5 a meal. And then if you're going with the more English Western style food prep, anywhere between like $10 and $13 a meal.
Yeah, and now there's a lot of restaurants here owned by Westerners. So if you want to have you can go to a breakfast place, and if you want like a full English, or you want, a avocado, feta, and toast, you can have that. But that will be probably like $8 to $10 at a restaurant as well. So you can go really Thai, you can go quite Western now, because there's a lot of Western-owned restaurants. So depending how you want, but you can. I know people here live here for a year, and they kind of eat off $15 to $20 a day, and their accommodation is probably the same as well. So you can kind of, depending how luxurious you want or what experience you want, you can kind of live whatever you like.
So let's just say for guys who are going out and they go, I want to just get a meal prep for lunches, make it easier. So I'll do the English, but I want to experience Thai, but I want to make sure I'm hitting my macros. What are your go-to Thai meals when you're going out to restaurants or going to little spots? What are some common meals that you can get? And then how do you bump them up to better hit your training macros?
I'm just trying to think about the English version of what the Thai names are. Like, we eat pad see ew, which is like a rice noodle and chicken. You can go it's like the traditional dishes. Like, obviously a lot of people go for like fried rice. There's pad see ew, which is the rice noodles. We just generally, basically, what me and Joe do, we usually just order like pork neck, chicken off the bone, just like a protein source of any time. We go to a lot of barbecues here, and then we'll order like sticky rice on the side just to eat like that. So you can kind of like gauge how much you're having in terms of that. I just say any of the traditional Thai dishes, you can get here, like, pad Thai, so forth, are fantastic options. But I think it's very easy to kind of stay on target here. The only thing you've got to realize is that their meals will be a lot higher in sodium than back home.
Yeah, which, like we said, isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're training a lot. So I think that's
It's
pretty much everything.
vegetables, protein, and rice. So you're gonna get a lot of your macronutrients. So one thing that we did struggle with Joe for a few days is that his energy was a bit low. He was feeling a bit underfueled, and what we realized is that traditionally the Asian culture doesn't have a lot of fats in their diet. Yes, they use some oils and stuff, but not back at home. Like they don't really have large servings of butter or avocado in their meals. So one thing that we did find is that we had to actually up Joe's fat intake to make sure to do that. So over about 3 or 4 days, we just increased his fat content of his meals, and then he was back to feeling fantastic within about 3 days. So that's one thing to be aware of, is the fat content of these meals is quite low in comparison to the same Western meals.
What are some of the things you're doing to bump up that fat?
So basically, we started using a meal prep company. So I'm using at the moment. Joseph loves ghee and avocados. We're just adding some extra avocados to every meal. A lot of ghee to the meals. So basically, just adding just large amounts of fats to his lunch and dinner. And then in the morning, we go out and we have like a 4 to 5 egg omelet. Usually on the side of that, we'll have a granola and fruit as well. So we're getting the fats from the granola. Maybe we'll have there's got some natural yogurt here, which is like a full fat yogurt, and then obviously avocado and ghee to lunch and dinner.
Yeah, awesome. I think that covers pretty much everything. So I think if you were to recap the biggest points, if young person listening to this, not even young person, any person's listening to this, they're going, I'm coming to Thailand. I don't want to absolutely cook myself, because I know a lot of people do that. Sum up in 30 seconds what your top nutrition tips are for them.
Hydration, make sure you're checking the color of your pee. I know it seems a bit old school, but it's a very good indication of your hydration status. That's how I kind of gauge it here. So make sure that you're prioritizing your water intake throughout the day. Make sure you have an electrolyte supplement. Make sure you're trying to eat enough. If your appetite's not there, make sure you're getting liquid calories in. One big thing is make sure you wear sunscreen and stay out of the sun, because you get a heat stroke like I did and be severely depleted for 2 days and feel depressed. But other than that, just really make sure that you're on top of your hydration, getting enough calories in, and monitoring your load initially if it's your first time in Thailand. And also just enjoy the beautiful culture. The people are amazing here, very welcoming. They look after you if you look after them. Obviously, tip people, be generous, and you'll have a fantastic time.
That's awesome. All right. If you guys have any more questions about that, you can hit up Jack on his Instagram at the Combat Dietitian. Hit him up. He's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to Thailand. I know it's the season to be doing it. So we'll chat again soon. We'll let you get back to training.
And there it is, another episode of the TFD Performance Podcast. We have had such a great response to our TFD Performance Hub, and we have just dropped our brand new course, Mobility for BJJ with Dr. Kickass. Dr. Kickass is one of the world leaders when it comes to BJJ performance, and this course has been made using the science of kin stretch, which helps BJJ athletes not only become stronger on the mats, but injury-proof their joints. This is truly a game changer for all BJJ athletes at every level of competition. If you want to start injury-proofing your body, then head to the link in the show notes and purchase our Mobility for BJJ course.